Hello everyone and welcome to Lesson 6.2B. I've entitled this video, Life on the Home Front. This video is going to cover pages 156 to 157. Life on the Home Front. The hardships of the soldiers involved in fighting the war were considerable. However, the war changed the lives of all Americans, even those who stayed at home. For example, wives of soldiers had to take care of families by themselves. They had to run a farm or business without a husband's help. Children had to make do without a father present. Question number 1. How are the lives of the soldiers' wives affected by the Revolutionary War? Well, they had to run the family without the husband there. And remember, for a long time, the husband was considered to be the head of the household, so this gave women more of an opportunity to show that they had what it took. They needed to do that to get that right to vote. They needed to show they shouldn't have had to, but they needed to show men, look, we could do things just fine while you're gone. And that really helped in the struggle for women's equality. Question 2. How were the lives of the soldiers' children affected by the Revolutionary War? Well, they had to live without a father. Problems in the economy. For the young United States, getting the money to pay for the war was a great challenge. The Continental Congress had no power to raise money through taxes. The Congress did get some money from the states and from foreign countries, yet this amount fell far short of the need. To meet this need, the Congress and the states simply printed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of paper money. The paper money quickly lost its value. The amount of bills were greater than the supply of gold and silver backing them. This led to inflation, which means that it took more and more money to buy the same amount of goods. People began to have doubts about how much their paper bills were worth. Congress stopped printing paper money because no one would use it. This left the Americans with no way to finance their fight for independence. Question number 3. Why was it challenging for the Continental Congress to pay for the Revolutionary War? Because they did not have the power to tax. As much as Americans don't like the word tax, you have to have it to pay for government services like a military. So when they couldn't tax, that made it very challenging to provide money to pay for the war. Question 4. How did the Congress and the states try to solve their money problems? Well, they just decided, let's print more money. And so they printed millions of dollars of paper money. Question number 5. Why did the Continentals quickly lose their value? The Continentals were the paper money that they printed at the time, and they lost their value because there were more paper dollars than the supply of gold and silver backing them. And so people realized, okay, this isn't really worth what it used to be, which led to inflation, which is number 6. What is inflation? What does that mean? That is when it takes more and more money to buy the same amount of goods. And I gave you a couple of examples here. Look at this. A cup of coffee in 1970 was 25 cents. But notice the price of a cup of coffee by 2022 rose to $1.85. Over time, things get more expensive. And that's called inflation, as I'm sure some of you have seen more recently in prices. Inflation can happen through a variety of factors, but definitely time it happens and things get more and more expensive dollar-wise, and so the value of a dollar becomes less and less. New ways of thinking. The ideals of liberty and freedom inspired the American Revolution. These same ideals also caused some women to question their role in American society. Abigail Adams, pictured here next to her husband, was one example. She wrote to her husband, John Adams, a member of Congress. Primary source from Adams' family papers. I cannot say that I think you are very generous to the ladies, for whilst you are proclaiming peace and goodwill to men, emancipating all nations, you insist upon retaining an absolute power over wives. Question number 7. How did the ideals of liberty and freedom fought for in the Revolutionary War affect American women? Well, they started to question, why should it just be men that these rights were being fought for? Why shouldn't it be women as well? And this would lead to the struggle for women's equality in this country. Questioning slavery. The revolutionary quest for freedom and liberty led some white Americans to question slavery. In 1778, Governor William Livingston of New Jersey asked his government to free all enslaved people. He said slavery was, quote, utterly inconsistent with the principles of Christianity and humanity. African Americans made similar arguments. In New Hampshire, enslaved people asked the government for their freedom so, quote, that the name of slave may not be heard in a land gloriously contending for the sweets of freedom. As you have read, African Americans fought for the American cause and hoped the Revolution would help end slavery. The Pennsylvania legislature in 1780 adopted a plan to gradually free enslaved people, the first legislature in the world to take such action against slavery. Other northern states soon took similar measures. Still, the issue of slavery would remain unsettled for many years. Question number 8. How did the ideals of freedom and liberty fought for in the Revolutionary War affect the views of slavery in New Jersey in 1778? New Jersey took a stand and said, we should free all people. There should not be slavery. It is not consistent with our views on humanity and Christianity. Question number 9. What plan did the Pennsylvania legislature adopt in 1780 over the issue of slavery? They said they were going to gradually free enslaved people, and this was the first time that happened in the world. Question 10. Which colonies and eventually states began to eliminate slavery? The northern states. That's going to be a huge deal as we get closer and closer to fighting the Civil War. You're going to see it's the northern states that do not have slavery and the southern states that do. So this is going to become a geographical difference between the northern states and the southern states. And we saw this in the musical 1776. And you're seeing it get a little bit more prominent here with this move by Pennsylvania's legislature. Treatment of Loyalists. Not all Americans supported the Patriot cause. During the war, thousands of Loyalists fought on the side of the British. Some Loyalists spied on the Patriots. Many Loyalists fled, packing their belongings and selling whatever they could. Some left hurriedly for other parts of the British Empire, including British-owned Florida. Known Loyalists who remained in the United States faced difficult times, as you can see here in the pictures. Their neighbors often shunned them. Some became victims of violence. Loyalists who actively helped the British faced arrest. In a few rare cases, Patriots executed Loyalists. So question number 11. What challenges did Loyalists face in the United States if they remained here? Well, on the easy end, they could be shunned. In other words, their neighbors would be like, oh, we don't want to talk to you. And that would be the easiest that would happen. Some became victims of violence. Some might get whipped or beaten with canes or strung up on a flagpole. And then some could even be arrested. And then in a few cases, some were actually killed by Patriots. Well, thank you so much for watching. Before we go, I have not one, but 2 memes for you. And they're both on inflation. Remember when air was free and now it's $1.75? Do you know why? Inflation. And what inflation? A package of ground beef costs the same as it did last month. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.